So, this is a story about coffee and my grandmother, Josepha, Josie, Mama, anything but abuela. We never called her abuela, even though that's the Spanish word for grandmother. Before I tell you the story about coffee, you have to understand a little bit about Josepha and my relationship with her before the coffee story. Josepha was from the Dominican Republic. She came from an affluent family. She married a lovely, sweet man, my grandfather, Papa or Lolo. They had 2 beautiful boys and a nice life in the Dominican Republic. Unfortunately, there was a terrible dictator there at the time, and so she thought it was a great idea for them to leave. She picked up the family and she took them to New York, to the Bronx. My grandfather kind of always liked the simple life, but Josepha was a determined woman. And when they got to New York, when they got to New York City, in the Bronx, she took a job sewing in a factory, and she went to night school for English, to learn English. And my grandfather worked in a factory as well, but this is about her today. So she worked very, very hard, and she was able to give her sons a really great life in the new world. She worked hard, and she expected you to work hard as well. Also, Josepha didn't pull any punches. She never kept it secret who were her favorites in the family. And I was not one of them. So it was interesting growing up with Josepha and my sisters and my cousins and things that went on there. So I didn't have a ton of love lost for Josepha when I was a kid. But as I got older, Josepha and Papa moved back to the Dominican Republic. And I wanted to know everything about my culture and about speaking Spanish, so I would go back a lot. But in one particular time, I went back in my 20s, specifically to learn Spanish. And I spent the entire summer there with Josepha. My grandfather had unfortunately already died. So, I'm in Josepha's house, and every day we would have a big lunch. Kind of a Latin thing. Giant lunch. It wouldn't matter if you had just had the biggest breakfast of your life and you finished eating at 11. At noon, you were eating again. Lunch was on the table. And after lunch every day, we had coffee. Now, I don't like coffee very much. It makes me jittery inside. Ugh, I don't feel good. But I would have a little bit of coffee just to be there with Josepha and have a chat. Every day, I'd pour a little bit of coffee. Every day, Josepha would say, "What are you doing with that coffee? How come you're only having that much?" And every day, I would say, "Mama, why are you making this big thing of coffee if you know that I'm only going to have a little bit?" "Oh, look at you, look at you, look what you make me do." And she'd pour the whole thing, and she'd drink all the coffee. "Look what you make me do, look at you, look what you make me do," she'd say to me every day. And every day I would say, "Mama, don't make so much coffee." And she would say, "How can I not make so much coffee? What if somebody comes by and there's no coffee?" Well, nobody ever came by. And we argued every day about the coffee. But the fun thing is that we went from arguing about the coffee every day in English to arguing about the coffee every day in Spanish. And we soon started laughing about it every day, and it became our joke. And as the weeks went on, and she taught me Spanish and more things about my culture, we laughed and laughed, and I grew so close to that woman that I would tell her everything that was going on in my life, even when I came back and she stayed. Eventually, she did come back to New York because she loved it. And she went back to the apartment in the Bronx, and that's where she had her last days, surrounded by her family and people that loved her, praying and singing. And forever, ever, ever, every day, I am grateful for my coffee adventures with my grandmother. Love you, Josepha. You taught me a lot.